for West Melbourne to build a
Yes.
school?
Yes.
So what you're saying is that there's not enough growth in West Melbourne with impact fees to support that school? I don't understand how, if West Melbourne is currently part of the 4th district, 3rd district, whatever district that it's in, they're not building enough homes.
No, the impact fees were used because we didn't have the half-cent sales tax. Then decisions were made to use those monies in other areas.
Okay.
Okay.
So
They used to pay the debt on schools like Heritage High. Yes.
Okay. Because in my mind, it's counterintuitive that you need 2 districts so that you can maneuver money around. Because if, for example, everybody knows we're growing here in District 4 Viera, okay. So if we're growing here, that's where the houses are being built. And if that's where the houses are being built, that's where the money's being raised. And if that's where the money's being raised, then that's where you need a school. To me, it's counterintuitive that you need to have 2 districts. What am I
An
missing?
example might be is, let's say a couple houses are built out beachside. Since I have Courtney here, we have a couple small developments are there. It would be, more advantageous to take the little bit of money that's generated beachside and add it to the money that's being generated out of West Melbourne and have it applied out there. So the little bits that are being raised in other areas then can get added to the big pot for that big area. So you're right. The areas that are generating the most are going to be used in that area, but we have little bits of money that are being raised in other areas.
Can you tell them how much we spent on Heritage High? I went to see that.
Heritage High School was $80 million, which at that time the average high school was $120 million, which was up in Volusia County.
Okay, that I wouldn't use Volusia as our standmark, but I will tell you, Heritage High, when I went to tour it, they have a stage that sinks down so that when the performers, the band is on stage, they're lowered down below where nobody can see them, and then they rise up. They have dressing rooms that mirror Broadway. And while that is nice, it was unnecessary, it was extravagant. There were things that were added to that high school, and it's a gorgeous high school, but if you built based on need rather than based on want, and that is what happened at Heritage High, it was overbuilt. It's a gorgeous high school, and so sometimes when you're seemingly flush with cash, you spend on things that you'd like to have. I'm guilty of it too. If I suddenly get a windfall, I may buy something I want rather than something I need. Unfortunately, as fiduciaries, we should not be doing that. And that's why there's too little money to build another school.
The average price of a high school is still around $100 million, so I'd be happy to take you around the state and show you, but Heritage High School is still an example of a high school that's less than the average cost of other high schools, and so be happy to share with you anytime what is expected in today's high schools.
Okay, thank you.
I can clarify one thing about impact fees. One is that you can't build again a third of a school. So you collect impact fees, you build a school, and it may have some capacity. And the people in that district built that capacity. And all over the county could have built it. Then you start consuming that capacity and paying for it. I think there's this mentality that every time you pay your impact fee from a home, somebody goes and then adds one classroom, and that's not what happens. What happens is they have to build a whole school, and then you might collect impact fees from that district, and then you go build another school. So to get this mental picture that when you're trying to build these lumpy items, and it's like you pay, if you paved a dirt road, it's in front of your home and you use it. That's not the case here. That you build an asset and you use the average impact fee cost, then you collect that money and then you start spending that money somewhere else. So I just want to get this mental picture that this is not quite like being about 1 acre park or doing some of the flexibility you have with park impact fees. You collect money, you buy 2 acres of park, you collect over here and you build 3 swing sets. That doesn't happen with school impact fees. You build a school. And once you build that school in that district, you may build more school in that district than they're going to consume for 15 years. So then you generate that revenue and you say, okay, I built the school, it's at 70% capacity, and I'm going to collect that money again for consuming it, and I can't spend it somewhere else. I'm just telling you, schools don't meet the same criteria that when you think.
Okay, so basically it gives you flexibility.
Yeah, and without it, you can't run a school system without being able to build something and then charge for people moving into the community to consume it while you're getting ready to build somewhere else. And I just want to be sure you understand there's a dramatic difference between the school system and what they're doing with these big chunks of money and spending money and then charging to consume it while collecting that money and then trying to build somewhere else. And then you add the portables and some of those things. So it is different, and all over the state you'll see the transition from anybody who's had multiple districts of moving to either one district or two districts. It's just a trend. It's almost a business thing you have to do.
Mr. Chair, could we get the gentleman from Cocoa that his group suggested?
Yeah, because that was news to me.
I believe Melbourne, I'm not positive, I believe Melbourne also asked to keep the four of them as they are. So,
yeah, could you reiterate why? I'm not sure you told us why. You just told us that your group agreed that it should stay with four. Can you tell me why, or tell us why?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as was stated before, again, my name's Steve Belden, City of Cocoa. Yes, and
on a community board.
yes, and I am the appointee for that board.
Okay.
As was stated, an impact fee, the fund should be collected where the money is paid. So it makes sense that the money's collected are spent in the area where they're needed in that district. It's really this kind of philosophical kind of discussion about an impact fee, the purpose of an impact fee. It shouldn't be spent in another area where it's not collected. That's a philosophical kind of position that we have, that they should not be spent somewhere else. As far as the actual fee, City of Cocoa has low-income housing. It is struggling to provide new housing, and we feel any increase to the impact fee is going to severely negatively impact the construction of new housing, especially for lower-income individuals. A small increase in an impact fee is going to severely impact those individuals. So it's really, in terms of the districts, it just comes down to, we feel that those funds that are collected in that district should be expended in that area as well. I mean, that's really the point of an impact fee and the impact fee districts that are created, not to be spent somewhere else.
Thank you. Quick question. Yes.
if I may, the benefit of keeping the four districts instead of going down to two districts is it keeps the money where the money is collected. And let me look at road impact fees. Road impact fees are collected because of the impact a certain development makes in that community. So when I look at West Melbourne, the impact that one, oh goodness, I always forget the name of that development. Anyway, the impact that development made in that community, all of the impact fees that they paid had to go to roads neighboring or adjoining that development. Otherwise, we could have used those impact fees paid to fix Barefoot Bay, which was not impacted by those roads, by that development. So if you go from 4 down to 2, to summarize, if you go from 4 down to 2, it takes the money collected in one area and says, well, because the school board has done such a fine job on allocating funds in the past, let's give them full discretion to spend the money virtually wherever they want. And in my present company excluded, but in my experience, I have not seen the school board thus far be a good steward of our funds. We have the fiasco with the software. We have Heritage High School, which was overdeveloped. It's a magnificent high school. I mean, it is amazing, but it was overdeveloped for the area. And so because they spent too much money in one area, now they don't have enough money, by example, in other areas in that general region. So I would not vote to go.
What I would argue with the impact fees, though, is that they are overseen by representatives of each one of the community. They do approve the projects that are paid for out of those. So, each one of the communities do have a say on how those are spent.
Right, but I've seen how on this very board, if money is not specifically legally bound to stay in one district, it doesn't stay in that district. It goes to whatever district happens to be in power at that time. And it takes the politics out of the spending. Otherwise, politics becomes involved in how money is allocated countywide. It is just a reality.
But the downside is that these are children, not roads, and we have concurrency laws, we have class size amendments, and a school can only hold so many children. And portables, the problem with portables, because I hear a lot of times people say just put up another portable, but you can a building can only hold so many portables. Meadow Lane's a good example. Well, you can only put up so many portables. We start lunch at one time at Meadow Lane. We started lunch at 10 o'clock and didn't finish up lunch until 2 o'clock. In order to get all those kids through the cafeteria, you can only serve so many students in that cafeteria. The media center can only serve so many students in that media center. You have to put up a building at some point. You've already heard Mr. Theodore say we can't take on any more debt. And so we have to build a school. The concurrency laws say we have to. We will stop development, which is the last thing I think the people around the table here want us to do is stop development. And so we're trying to work with you into keeping economic development happening within Brevard County. And all we're asking for from all of you is to work with us. And I know the software thing you keep bringing up, and I keep saying there's two sides to every story, so stay tuned to Tuesday morning's board meeting. That's all I ask on that one.
Good question. How is charter schools affecting your need to build new schools as these charter schools pop up? I remember one time there was some conversation about a middle school in Viera, and I don't know if the Viera charter school changed those growth numbers that you didn't have to build it today, and it seems like there's a pattern of charter schools coming up all over, at least applications are coming to you constantly.
Well, we just approved 2 this year. They're relatively small. Charter schools are an option. If we don't provide the capacity, some of the charter schools may take advantage of that and build a charter school. That's exactly what happened here in Viera. We were concentrating on at the time paying our debt and trying to keep our schools operational as opposed to building a middle school here. And I believe that the Viera Charter School, as a result of that, they're not a focused. In other words, charter schools start with a need. They serve special needs or special programs. Typically, now that was just a capacity issue. Actually, in Viera, because we couldn't afford to build elementary schools, it relieved us from pouring portables out onto the street in Viera. So that actually was a benefit to us, although there's debate within our system about that. But and they have opened. They're now a K-8, so they're serving that middle school element.
But I do want to add, we can't tell parents to go there, so we always have to have out the welcome mat. Just because a charter school's open, we can't tell parents we're full, you have to go there. Or that charter school could close tomorrow and all 500 students, we would have to find room for them tomorrow. So we can never consider their capacity as part of ours. It's available if parents choose, but it's always at the parent's option. So just so that you're aware of that, it's out there, but we have to treat it as private school capacity, even though they're a public school.